Ladies and gentlemen, there is no force on earth more powerful, more dangerous, and more divine than the human mind. Everything that exists around us, the cities we admire, the systems we depend on, the solutions we celebrate, began in one place, the mind of a person who dared to think differently. Your life does not follow your environment, it follows your mind. This truth often escapes even the most intelligent individuals because society teaches us that our circumstances define us. But the reality is much deeper. Everything you are experiencing today is a reflection of the thoughts you accepted yesterday. The environment may influence, but it cannot control. Only the mind holds the power to determine direction and destiny. Think for a moment, two people can be born in the same home, go to the same school, live through the same challenges, yet end up with drastically different lives. Why? The difference is not in what happened to them, but in how their minds processed and responded to what happened. One allowed external limitations to become internal boundaries. The other chose to transform limitations into stepping stones. That choice was not physical, it was mental. The mind is like a seedbed. Whatever is planted there, nurtured by attention and belief, will eventually grow and produce fruit. If you plant fear, you will reap hesitation. If you plant doubt, you will harvest limitation. But if you plant vision, purpose, and self-discipline, your life begins to move toward your potential, not your past. This is not merely motivational language. It is psychological law and spiritual truth. A person does not rise above their thoughts. If your mind is filled with scarcity, you will always live in lack, even if you have abundance in your hand. If your mind is trained in victimhood, you will remain defeated even when the doors to opportunity swing wide open. But when your mind is reoriented toward purpose, clarity, and resilience, you begin to see what others miss. You begin to believe what others doubt. You begin to walk where others hesitate. The most dangerous poverty is not financial, it is mental. A poor man with a rich mind is on his way to transformation. A rich man with a poor mind is on his way to destruction. This is why the first thing that must change in your life is not your job, your location, or your relationships. It is your thought patterns. Until the way you think changes, the patterns of your life cannot. Every great invention, movement, business, or breakthrough started in someone's mind. It began as a thought that refused to die. Your mind is not just a place to store facts. It is the birthplace of destiny. The battles you win or lose in life are first fought within. What you see, what you believe, what you meditate on, and what you speak to yourself. All of it determines the direction of your life long before your feet take the first step. So never underestimate the power of a single thought. The thought you cultivate today could be the very force that shifts the course of your tomorrow. If you want to change your life, start by guarding, feeding, and focusing your mind, because ultimately your life will never go where your mind has not already gone. The greatest wars are not fought with guns or missiles, nor are they recorded in history books or televised on news stations. The most significant battles are invisible and internal, fought within the arena of the human mind. This battlefield is where destinies are either fulfilled or forfeited, where clarity wrestles with confusion, and where purpose contends with distractions and doubts. Every human being is engaged in this battle, whether they realize it or not. And the intensity of the war increases the closer one gets to purpose. Why? Because the mind is the control center of your entire life. If the enemy can influence your thoughts, he does not need to touch your body, your finances, or your relationships. Once your mind is compromised, everything else begins to collapse from within. Most people assume that their biggest problem is outside of them: an unfair boss, a struggling business, a broken relationship. But the real warfare is taking place behind their eyes and between their ears. It is the silent, persistent struggle between what is true and what is false, what is eternal and what is temporary, what is possible and what is fearful. When you wake up each morning, you are not just getting ready for your day, you are entering into mental warfare. What makes this battlefield so dangerous is that it is subtle. Thoughts do not announce themselves with warnings. They slip in quietly, often wrapped in the language of culture, emotion, or past trauma. And before you know it, you are no longer living by conviction, you are reacting to suggestion. You stop pursuing your vision and begin settling for survival. The dream dies, not because the dream was impossible, but because the mind was unguarded. But this battle is not meant to defeat you, it is meant to shape you. Victory in the mind builds the muscle of character, focus, and discernment. It teaches you how to separate fact from feeling and truth from opinion. It develops the ability to resist compromise even when comfort is calling. Those who conquer in the mind are not perfect people. They are persistent people. They fight daily. They confront every lie. They refuse to allow the past to rewrite the future. To win this war, the mind must be armed. Not with weapons, but with truth. Truth is the only substance strong enough to destroy deception. And purpose is the only light bright enough to pierce through confusion. You must fill your mind intentionally with wisdom, with clarity, with revelation. You cannot afford to let the world do your thinking for you. If you do not take control of your mind, someone else will. Ultimately, your mind is the gate through which your life is shaped. Every act of courage, every choice of discipline, every decision of faith originated in thought. So fight well, fight daily. And remember, the greatest battles are fought not to destroy you, but to reveal who you truly are. Victory is not out there. It is in here, in the territory of your mind. A changed mind can change any condition. This statement is not simply motivational, it is transformational truth. Many people live under the weight of circumstances, believing that if their situation changes, then their life will improve. But life does not work from the outside in, it works from the inside out. Conditions are real: poverty, sickness, rejection, failure, but they are not permanent. What makes them permanent is a mind that accepts them as final. The moment the mind begins to see beyond a situation, the situation begins to lose its power. The power of the mind lies in its ability to interpret reality. Two people can be in the exact same position. One sees a wall, the other sees a door. One sees impossibility, the other sees potential. What's the difference? The condition is the same, but the mentality is not. That is why the most powerful change you can ever experience is not in your income, location, or relationships, but in your perspective. The way you see determines the way you move. Many people are imprisoned not by physical chains, but by mental boundaries. They say, I can't do it, and so they don't. They say, no one will help me, and so they never ask. They say, it's too late, and so they stop trying. These are not external facts. They are internal beliefs, and beliefs shape behavior. If you believe change is possible, you will act like it is. And action grounded in faith creates momentum. That momentum shifts reality. What separates those who rise above adversity from those who are buried by it is not luck. It's the decision to think differently. The human mind is incredibly adaptive. It can take new information, reframe past pain, and project new possibilities. But it must be trained. If left unchecked, the mind will default to fear, complaint, and survival. But a trained mind embraces vision, responsibility, and resilience. And once that shift occurs, conditions begin to respond. Even in the darkest environments, war zones, poverty, stricken neighborhoods, oppressive regimes, there are individuals who rise. Not because the environment changed first, but because their mindset changed. They chose to see opportunity where others saw despair. They chose to believe in the unseen. And that belief caused them to act, to build, to persevere. And eventually, their surroundings began to reflect the strength of their inner world. You are not a slave to your condition. You are the steward of your mind. And if you change the way you think, you will change the way you live. It does not happen overnight, but it begins with one decision: to stop allowing circumstances to tell you who you are and start using your mind to decide who you will become. Once your mind shifts, your life follows. So whatever you're facing, lack, rejection, limitation, Remember this, the condition is not the conclusion. Your mind has the power to write a new chapter. All it takes is a new way of thinking, and everything can begin to change. True transformation never begins with behavior. It begins with thought. This is one of the most misunderstood principles in the journey of personal growth. Many people try to change their lives by adjusting their habits, their routines, even their relationships. While these things matter, they are not the root. They are the fruit. Real lasting transformation begins in the mind. Until your thoughts are renewed, your actions will only be temporary imitations of change, not genuine expressions of it. You can modify your behavior for a season, but if your mindset remains the same, you will eventually return to what is familiar. Why? Because the mind sets the thermostat of your life. No matter how far you stretch beyond your comfort zone, if your internal setting hasn't changed, your life will eventually revert to what your mind believes is normal. That's why people can leave a toxic environment but carry the same toxicity within them. Repeating old patterns in new places, renewing the mind is not about positive thinking. It is about its correct thinking. It is about replacing distorted beliefs with truth. It requires more than motivation. It requires education. Many people were raised with thought systems shaped by fear, failure, scarcity, or shame. These thought systems become the foundation of their decision making. If they are not confronted and replaced, those patterns will continue to limit what is possible, no matter how much talent or potential a person carries. The renewal of the mind is a process of intentional rewiring. It is not automatic. You must expose yourself to new ideas, challenge your old assumptions, and develop the discipline to think beyond the surface. It takes time, patience, and effort, but the results are life-changing. When your thinking changes, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your behavior aligns with who you believe you are, not who you used to be. This is why people who experience deep internal transformation begin to act differently without forcing themselves to. They don't have to pretend to be disciplined. They are. They don't struggle to stay focused. They naturally are. Not because of external rules, but because their internal world has shifted. They've renewed their mind, and their actions now flow from a new place of clarity and conviction. It's important to understand that transformation is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. The renewed mind allows you to strip away lies, insecurities, and the false identities you've accepted over time. It empowers you to walk in truth, to see your life through the lens of purpose, and to align your actions with your highest values. So if you truly desire to change your life, start not with your hands, but with your head. What you think drives what you do, and what you do determines what you become. Renew your mind, and your life will begin to reflect the transformation you've always longed for, not as a struggle, but as a natural expression of your true self. Knowledge enters the mind, but it must be processed into wisdom through meditation and clarity of thought. We live in an age where information is everywhere. Books, videos, lectures, and endless digital content. But having access to knowledge does not mean a person is understanding. It's not what you know that changes your life, it's what you understand. And understanding is the product of a mind that has taken the time to process, reflect, and extract meaning from information. A person can memorize facts, quote statistics, and recite theories, yet still make poor decisions. Why? Because knowledge alone is not enough. It is raw data. What turns that data into direction is meditation, deep, intentional thinking. Meditation allows the mind to digest what it receives. It helps separate what is useful from what is irrelevant, what is true from what is misleading. Without meditation, knowledge becomes noise. It adds to mental clutter but never produces clarity. Clarity of thought is a rare treasure in a noisy world. The mind that is constantly distracted cannot access wisdom, no matter how much information it gathers. That is why people often find themselves overwhelmed, not from a lack of knowledge, but from too much unfiltered input. Their minds are crowded with half-understood concepts, conflicting ideas, and surface-level opinions. In this state, the mind cannot function at its highest capacity. It reacts instead of reasons. It copies instead of creates. To become truly wise, you must learn to slow down and think. After receiving knowledge, give your mind space to question it. Ask, what does this mean for me? How does it align with my purpose? What principles can I apply from this? Wisdom is not knowing everything, it is knowing what to do with what you know. That kind of wisdom cannot be rushed. It must be cultivated through reflection. This process of transformation through thought is what elevates the mind. It distinguishes a person who merely gathers information from one who applies insight. The difference between ordinary people and extraordinary leaders is not how much they know, but how deeply they understand what they know. Great minds are not busy minds. They are clear minds. They know how to process complexity into simplicity and insight into action. Understanding also brings confidence. When your mind has clarity, you no longer second-guess your choices. You're not easily swayed by trends or pressured by opinions. You become anchored not just in what you know, but in why it matters and how it applies. That kind of mental strength cannot be borrowed. It must be built. So don't just seek to fill your mind. Seek to reform it. Expose it to truth. Give it time to process and challenge it to think deeply. When knowledge is refined by meditation, it becomes wisdom. And wisdom is what gives direction, stability, and the power to live with purpose. The mind is not just a container, it is a processor. What you allow it to work on will ultimately shape who you become. A free mind is not an idle mind. The freedom to think is not the same as the discipline to think rightly. Many people celebrate the idea of having an open, liberated mind, but fail to realize that without structure and discipline, that freedom quickly turns into confusion and chaos. The mind, like any powerful instrument, must be trained to function effectively. It is not enough to have potential. That potential must be managed, guided, and developed through consistent mental discipline. Discipline of the mind is not about limiting your thoughts, it is about focusing them. An undisciplined mind is like a river with no banks. It spreads wide but goes nowhere. It jumps from idea to idea, distracted by every opinion, every emotion, every opportunity without ever committing to a clear direction. Such a mind produces activity but not progress. It appears busy but achieves little. To grow, the mind must learn to concentrate, prioritize, and persist. Growth is not automatic. It requires a conscious effort to feed the mind with what builds, not just what entertains. Discipline means saying no to mental junk food, the constant stream of gossip, distractions, shallow entertainment, and negativity. These things may stimulate the mind for a moment, but they weaken it over time. A disciplined mind chooses to engage with thoughts, books, conversations, and environments that sharpen its focus and elevate its thinking. One of the greatest acts of mental discipline is the ability to control your inner dialogue. The thoughts you repeat to yourself shape your identity, influence your emotions, and determine your decisions. If your mind is undisciplined, it will default to fear, doubt, comparison, and insecurity. But a trained mind knows how to intercept those thoughts and replace them with truth, affirmation, and purpose. This is not pretending, it is protecting. The disciplined mind is not only intentional about what it thinks, but also about how long it thinks. It knows how to meditate on ideas deeply rather than skipping from one to the next. It knows how to delay gratification, to stay focused on long-term goals even when short-term temptations arise. It does not need constant stimulation to feel alive. It finds strength in silence, wisdom in solitude, and clarity in focus. Mental discipline also includes emotional regulation. A disciplined mind does not allow every emotion to become a decision. It learns to feel without being led by feeling. It processes pain without being paralyzed by it. It navigates stress without being owned by anxiety. This kind of mental maturity is what separates reactive individuals from resilient leaders. Ultimately, mental discipline is the foundation of personal development. It is the bridge between intention and execution. Without it, even the best ideas remain dormant. But with it, ordinary individuals accomplish extraordinary things. You don't need to have the highest IQ to succeed. You need to have a trained, focused, and disciplined mind. Because when your mind is disciplined, your life becomes directed and your potential becomes real. The mind is the soil where destiny is planted, watered, and harvested. Everything significant that will ever emerge in your life must first be conceived in your mind. Before it can exist in the physical realm, it must be born in your inner world. Just as a farmer carefully selects, plants, and cultivates seeds to reap a harvest, you must treat your mind with the same level of care and intentionality. Your future, whether abundant or barren, is determined by the seeds you allow to take root in your thoughts. Every thought is a seed. Some are seeds of greatness, ideas full of creativity, potential, and purpose. Others are seeds of fear, mediocrity, and defeat. The challenge is that the mind, like soil, does not discriminate. It will grow whatever you plant in it. If you consistently think thoughts of limitation, negativity, or comparison, your life will produce corresponding outcomes. But if you intentionally plant thoughts of vision, discipline, hope, and clarity, your life will begin to reflect those as well. Many people are living harvests of past thoughts, harvests they did not even realize they were cultivating. The mind is always producing something, whether or not you are paying attention. That is why awareness is critical. You must ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind? What beliefs have I accepted without questioning? What thoughts am I rehearsing day after day? Because whatever occupies your mind eventually occupies your life. A seed requires the right environment to grow. So does your destiny. Surrounding your mind with encouragement, wisdom, and truth creates the environment necessary for healthy thoughts to flourish. But if your mental environment is filled with doubt, fear, confusion, and toxic voices, even the best ideas can wither. You must protect your mind like a garden, pulling out weeds, guarding against pests, and ensuring it receives light and nourishment daily. Watering the seed of your destiny involves meditation and repetition. You can't just think a positive or powerful thought once and expect it to bear fruit. You must meditate on it, rehearse it, and allow it to shape your perspective. Meditation is how you water the seed. Consistency is how you fertilize it, and action based on those thoughts is how you break the ground and begin the harvest. Many people give up on their dreams not because they lacked ability, but because they failed to cultivate their thoughts. They got distracted. They allowed weeds of doubt to grow. They compared their seed to someone else's harvest and lost faith in their own. But every destiny has its own timing. What matters is that you keep nurturing your mind and believing in the process. So take responsibility for the garden of your mind. Be intentional with your thoughts. Plant what you want to see. Remove what does not belong. And trust that with time, discipline, and faith, your destiny, planted deep within the soil of your thinking, will break through the surface and manifest into reality. Because what grows in your life always starts in your mind.